Welcome to Conversations with the Candidates. I am your host, Tammy Daniels, editor of iBerkshires.com. This is a part of a series of discussions with candidates for the North Adams City Council for the election of 2021. It is sponsored by iBerkshires and hosted by Northern Berkshire Community Television. And with us with this episode, we have incumbents Keith Bona and Brian Sapienza and candidate Ashley Shade. All three of them have been with us before for a conversation, so we're hoping to have a pretty good one this evening. And we're going to start with allowing them to introduce themselves. And Keith Bona, you may kick it off.
Sure. I'll try to keep this short because I prefer, Brian and Ashley are both, give them more opportunity because I've had plenty of times up here. So, but just briefly, the main reason I'm rerunning is we got a new administration coming in. We got a fairly new, we have a lot of new faces in City Hall. The majority of the council coming in is going to be within less than one term. And so while I think that's great, I do feel having some longer experience members on the council is beneficial also. So myself and Councilor Blackmer would probably be the two longest. And then, but again, the majority are going to be councilors with just one term. And I think my experience in and off council is beneficial. Thank you.
Okay.
And good evening, I'm Brian Sapienza. I was appointed to the City Council back in June. The reason I am running is because I want to serve our city. I am a native of the city and a longtime resident. I care deeply about the city, its people, and hope to serve and help the people of this community. So far, my experience with the council has been very good, and I hope to be able to continue that into the next term and go from there. A little bit about myself. I am a graduate of MCLA, I have business administration, bachelor's in business administration and associates in engineering technology from Berkshire Community College. I presently work at KM Motors. Some of you may know me as the parts guy up at West Main Street. And so I thank you for your support.
All right. And Ms. Shade.
Yes, hello, my name is Ashley Shade, and I'm running for City Council because I believe that we have an opportunity coming in to help our city grow in a new direction. We're on the cusp of something that we can accomplish together by building a great community and building and bringing people in with new ideas that can really help our city start growing again. We've been in a population decline for 6 decades, and because of that, we have a lot of issues with our infrastructure and other city needs that need to be addressed. And in order to get those addressed, we need new ideas and we need new voices at the table. I also believe it's important for all communities to have representation in government, and so it's an honor for me to run and serve and represent my community. It is really important for us to look at the challenges that we have together and come together, all of us as a city, win or lose, come together and help work on these issues that we're all going to face, because this is our city together. It's not just going to be one person or one voice that has all the solutions. We all need to be here together.
Okay. Well, I think Ms. Shade brought up a number of issues and topics that I thought we should probably address. And I think like the biggest one looming over the city is infrastructure, particularly the public safety building and the water and the sewer. So, I mean, that's something that the next administration, City Council, is going to have to address. It's been a long time coming. So, Ms. Shade, what if you were elected? What would you support? Borrowing? How do you see your role in helping the city move forward on these very costly issues?
Yeah, unfortunately, we won't be able to solve these problems in one term, right? In 2 years, we're not going to have a new public safety building. We're not going to have a new sewer system. These aren't going to be fixed overnight. But we do need to get the processes rolling. We need to have shovel-ready projects. We need to get the processes rolling so that we can apply for and get the grants so that we can actually start the work. And in order to do that, there's a lot of processes. There are studies that are required. There are building plans that need to be done. We need to move these processes forward and have a plan. And we need our next mayor to lead that, and we need our council to step up and get that rolling. Those need to be priorities to get those projects to that shovel-ready point. So that way, when the funds are available and the grants are available, we can apply for them to get these things going.
And I'm going to throw it to Councilor Sapienza, having been on the council the shortest period of time at this point, right?
Yes.
So what has been your take on how we need to deal with this?
Well, I think that what we need to do is we need to get some of these projects shovel-ready. Of course, maybe we can use some of the ARPA funding to be able to get to the point where these projects are shovel-ready and we can present them, say, here we go, we have a plan, let's move forward with the plan, either for the public safety building, the infrastructure, water, sewer. We're also going to have to look at the flood control chute to see if there's monies available for that as well, because there are sections of that that are in danger of disintegrating eventually. We need to kind of balance the available funds with some financing. We don't want to go overboard with the financing because we don't want to get hit with a lot of interest on the funds that we do borrow. And if the money is out there, once we have these projects shovel ready, we need to actively pursue these projects. And we need to put a priority. What's most important? Is the water important? Is the sewer more important? Or is the public safety building more important? And at this point, I think water and sewer are our highest priorities. The public safety building is a priority, and it's a very important one. And we need to keep that on the table. And like Ms. Shade said, we need to be able to get the, these projects going and get them going soon and not let them go.
Well, I think that's part of it. It's been deferred maintenance for a long time. And Councilor Bona, as somebody who's been on the council for a long time, you've heard this. I mean, I think you were there when we heard one of the first estimates. It was almost a decade ago that it was going to be 20 million. Yep. And you've been on the Public Services Committee. So I think the issue is, as a city councilor, what is possible to, can you be more active in forcing the executive to really deal with these things? Or?
Yeah, as a city councilor, our ability to approve or disapprove what comes in front of us. And the argument could be made that we can not pass the budget and say we're not passing this because you did not put enough in here for, the infrastructure. But then you're tying up the budget and you're affecting other things, and there's such big price tags. I went back, I asked the public works director, the superintendent, and there's no good records for the last half century at least that show a number of streets that have been completely replaced, pipes underneath. There's been administrations in the past that have promised that they would replace most of the pipes, and it didn't happen. It didn't happen because they relied on grants, they relied on funding, and it didn't come through. And the only other place then we would get it is through tax revenue, and our tax revenue is on the low side. And so we raise taxes. We hear from the residents that you've raised my tax bills, and then we're very limited with what we can do financially. So it does come down to funding, and the ARPA funding is a start. It could make a little chip away because, we're talking hundreds of millions. We're talking hundreds of millions of dollars. The Alkenbright administration did the 30-year plan. They did a 20-year infrastructure plan, and again, it was a 9-figure price tag on that, and so there's no good answer. But again, I don't know of a single street, a full street that we've replaced the plumbing on in quite a while, and we have 100 miles of streets.
Yeah, I was there with the last water main break on River Street, and they had so many documents out trying to figure out some of them dating until like the 40s and 50s and 60s, trying to figure out where things went. So it's not just the fact that we have infrastructure that's failing, it's the fact that we don't have documentation
Right.
of the infrastructure that's failing. So, and I think you brought up a good point about grants, that we all talk about grants. We got to get a grant for this, grant for that, but sometimes those grants simply aren't available, and you have to make tough decisions. So I don't know, Councilor Sapienza, are you ready to make tough decisions in the next 2 years with either cutting budgets or raising taxes?
Well, anytime you raise taxes, everybody gets, that's the worst reaction. Everybody is like, you can't raise my taxes, you know, I pay enough. It's a hard pill to swallow when you have to raise taxes. And, you know, I don't want to raise taxes, but you have to realize too, the same prices the people in the city pay for things like fuel, groceries, not that the city buys a lot of groceries, but fuels, supplies, and other things, those prices are going up as well. And as the costs increase to the consumer, they increase to the city of North Adams, and that's a problem. As far as making the hard decisions, if we can get grants are the way to go. There's a lot of money out there available. We have to know how to search for it and find it to minimize the impact on our taxpayers. The city, we're trying to grow the city, and if we go crazy with the taxes, people are not going to want to relocate here. So we have to kind of keep that in mind when we want to grow for the future. We want to bring more people into our city, but we also don't want to, you know, scare them away with excessive taxes.
So I'm going to kind of tie that into something that Ms. Shade said earlier about, you know, inclusive and bringing more voices to the table, which we also spoke about in another session with other candidates. And Councilor Sapienza is talking about where's that sweet spot where, you know, it's livable and you can attract people. So what is your take on how we get new people to come to the city and be involved and participate and bring diverse ideas about maybe how we can do some of these things? So how do we bring people in, and what would be the role of the city council in doing that?
Well, I think the city council.
Ms. Shade.
Oh,
I'm sorry. You can take it after her. That's
Okay,
I just
I
want
will
to make
do
sure she
that.
has her voice.
So I just wanted to touch base quick on the last
Sure,
question as a
sure.
candidate. I would never vote to raise taxes unless every other option was off the table. We have to turn over every single other stone that we can and find ideas, think outside of the box. And we need the community to help us do that. We can't do it alone. So if you are out there and you know how to write grants or search for grants or find funding, we need you to come help us. Simple as that. Like, come help the city. We need more voices at the table. As far as bringing in new diverse community members, we need better career opportunities here in North Adams. I believe there's an opportunity. We are 3 hours away from Boston and New York. We're an hour and a half away from Albany. We have 2 amazing higher educational facilities in our town and bordering us. We have a vocational technical high school. I believe there's an opportunity to work with our educational institutions and the business community to help formulate a plan to train workforce, bring new industry here, careers, not just jobs, not just things that people work paycheck to paycheck for, but actual careers where people have money to actually buy homes, to have a higher quality of life. That's what we need to attract to North Adams. And in order to do that, we need the help of the community. We need to work with our educational institutions, and we need to work with the business community as well as kind of a tripod and help balance each other out and help figure out what our needs are and how we can accomplish those things together. I think we have a unique opportunity to do that in North Adams. We already have an amazing tourism area. We have an opportunity to bring people in with the new work from home. Now that COVID has been here, this pandemic, a lot of people have moved out of offices. We could bring a lot of those people into our community as work from home. If we can build up our internet infrastructure and make that more solid, there's a lot of different kinds of opportunities to bring new people here. We already have the arts and tourism. We have a beautiful area to live in. The Berkshires are absolutely gorgeous. People want to be here, and we can help them make it our home by being welcoming to them and being welcoming to new ideas and opportunities for the city.
Okay. I'm going to say, well, unless you want to say something else, Councilor Sapienza, but I would also throw out that if we want people to be here, they have to have a place to live. And so what's your take on smart growth housing?
I think smart growth.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry. Smart growth housing is a good idea. It'll open up some areas that were previously inaccessible to residential housing, and I believe it's a good program, and look forward to seeing it work.
Councilor Bona?
Sure. Sort of combine the two, beyond just housing and back to what Ashley was saying, is not only do we need to have jobs, but we have some different populations here and demographics, and they sometimes feel divided. You have your natives, your longtime residents, and then you have new people who've come here, and we still have to change the mentality of some to be open and accepting to what has changed. That we are not that old blue-collar mill town that we were 30, 40 years ago, and there is new demographics moving here, and we need to be very accepting to that. While I've been here most of my life, I get crazy excited when I meet new people that move here, and I don't care where they're from, who they are, but and I post about them, and here's our new residents, and to me that's very, very exciting, and we need the rest of the population to all get behind that, because one of the ways this city's going to grow is not just with our population that was here 30 years ago, but is with new people coming in. When you look at the biggest investments that are happening in this city, they're happening with people that have not been here that long. So some have, but I'm just saying a lot of them have not. So I think we just need to be more open to the new ideas and fresh ideas and everyone who can come in. And it's not about just changing what we had, it's figuring out how to make it all work together. As for smart growth, I think it's a case of, personally me, I don't see the negatives to it. The city benefits financially. At the same time, I don't also see that it's going to be major changes. I think there's this concern out there that something big is going to happen that's going to change all our lives. And if anything, it's going to be just some of these buildings that either once did have residents or that have been empty are just going to become residents. The Eclipse Mill is an example of that happening. It's like that didn't change the entire city, but it took a mill that was a working mill and made it a residential mill. And so if we see things like that, they're positive, but I don't think, again, it's going to be something dramatic that, it seemed like there was this fear of, oh my God, what it's going to do. And, the biggest positive to it is that the city benefits from it financially, not really the developers. And I think there was also that concern of that it was going to be, for low income. And that is not the case. That's
right.
False information.
False information.
Well, the other thing
False
about
information. And I think I'm going to go back to Councilor Sapienza for this, and then everybody can talk about it. False information and social media and accusations of not being transparent. So I guess the question is, do you think it's transparent enough and the government's transparent enough? If not, how do we change it? And how does local government address the rumors and the stuff that is constantly churning on Facebook and other social media accounts?
Well, to me, social media is a great tool, but over the years, I think, or the past several years, I think a lot of people have taken and have abused it to the point where there is a lot of misinformation out there. It gives a lot of people the opportunity that wouldn't normally have a voice to be out there and basically put it out there, if you, for lack of better terms. Personally, I don't post anything on Facebook unless it's something good or it's something interesting. There's a lot of people, I know there's a lot of misinformation out there, false information, as you said earlier. One of the things I see a lot, transparency. I believe from what I've seen in the last 3 or 4 months that I've been a counselor, we've had plenty of transparency. All the meetings are open to anyone, any member of the public that wants to come and join us. You have more than ample opportunity, even if it's by Zoom or if it's an in-person meeting. Please get out there, and if you have an opinion, please come to these meetings, the city council meetings. There's a lot of committee meetings and commission meetings that a lot of the groundwork is done in the committees and the commissions. Those meetings are open also. Get out there, get involved, let us know, give us a call, email us, let us know, and we will give you the information. If there's something out there that you have a question about, call us, contact us, myself, Councilor Bona. You know, we are there for the people of North Adams, and you know, take advantage of it. Let us help you out or give you the information that you're looking for.
Okay. And Ms. Shade, I mean, we were just talking about we're not going to talk about what the post was. We were just talking about a post that's sort of like disinformation, I guess. So what is your take on transparency in local government and social media?
Social media is a tool that can be used for good, and it can also be used for bad. We have to balance and understand what we're doing. It's very important for people to not take everything they see on social media as truth and fact. Do your own research, look things up, be diligent, talk to people, get firsthand accounts. Social media is very easily used to spread rumors. Social media is also a great source of information from firsthand accounts when people are directly speaking to others. I've seen social media used in great ways. I use social media to promote things, to talk about things, and I think that's a very important tool to have. But social media shouldn't be the only tool that you rely on to get all of your information. It's really, really important to check your sources and where things are coming from. As far as transparency goes, I think there are things that we can do better. We do well, we can do better. For example, when the city council meetings were on Zoom, I thought they were easier to access because a lot of people don't have public television anymore. They were easier to watch. I would love for city council meetings to be live streamed while they're also being recorded for television, live streamed on the internet, on a web page. That would bring more transparency for those people who can't get down to City Hall and would like to watch it. So that's something I think we can do better. There's always things that we can improve upon. And if people have suggestions, they should contact their representatives. They should contact City Hall and say, hey, I have an idea, here's how we can do this. And I think most people will get behind it because we want things to be more open. We want people to be more informed because that's how we make better decisions and that's how we grow as a community. We can't grow and make good decisions with bad information. So the more open we are and the more communication we have, to me, that's the best thing we can do.
And Councilor Bona, what do you think the council and local government has been transparent enough? Because there have been a lot of accusations that secret meetings, things like that.
I mean, I'm going to agree with Ashley that there's always room for improvement. But also, it's not always as easy as it sounds either. You know, there are things that, so every time someone posts a question on social media that sounds like a scandal, should we be responding to it every time? I mean, we would just constantly be spending our days trying to put out these fires, but sometimes these little fires do turn into big fires, and at some point you do have to jump on them. But you know, I mean, there's not a lot of people in City Hall, and they're focusing on projects. And you know, I'll message the mayor, and send the mayor a message, and we communicate 2 in the morning. You know, Tammy, do you know anything about this? You know, because I used to rely a lot, you rely a lot on your local media, and we don't have the local media like we used to, you know. I mean, iBerkshires itself is not really an investigative reporting kind of media, and we're very limited to what, you know, the Berkshire Eagle does. I mean, when I first joined the council, there was 5 reporters that were sitting in the chambers, and, you know, now there's 2 if we're lucky. And again, your media is different. It's not that dig deep and find answers to all these questions. So in a day of information, we sort of do lack information. So then does that fall onto the city to make it easier for people to understand? One of the things that I'd like to see, and I know it's been brought up in the mayoral debates too, you know, that some cities have, because this is questions we get. We'll get phone calls. Hey, what's happening with the potholes on this street? What's happening with the blighted house on this street? And I would like to at least have something that's online that shows projects that the city's working on, to know that people can at least go there and see that the city is aware of it, and maybe where it is in their progress. That actually would save a ton of phone calls, because I'm sure the city gets calls all the time on the same project over and over. So is that a transparency? As for conspiracy and all these, what did you say? Backroom politics. It's not there. You know, I mean, I don't know. I just don't know where, how that really gets made up. I mean, sure, do we run into each other and you know, talk? Yeah, but are we making decisions? No. I mean, we have lives outside of being city council, and we have the right to be social together outside city council. But that doesn't mean if you see 4 city councilors standing next to each other that there's some conspiracy theory that we're planning how to take over the city. So.
So let's turn to what we think might be the biggest, I mean, obviously we know infrastructure is going to be the very biggest challenge in the next 2 years, but outside of that, Ms. Shade, what in particular would you like to see done if you were elected in 2 years? An ordinance or a resolution or something? What would be on your plate?
Yeah, I think there are several things that I'd like to see happen. There are several ordinances that I think are outdated that need to be revised. Some of them around how our businesses operate. I think some of them are very restrictive and make it difficult. I think it's time to review some of those things. I also think that I would like to see the city begin the process of taking up a charter review. I think it's time to review our charter, make updates. There's a lot of outdated language that no longer applies to the city that, quite frankly, could be seen as discriminatory even, and we need to update that. If we're going to be an inclusive city that's diverse, we need our charter to reflect that as well. So those are some things that I think are really important. And of course, the other thing that's really important to me is bringing in that aspect of trying to create this plan for economic development, trying to bring new career opportunities, not just jobs. You know, when I think of North Adams, we have a lot of, you know, our biggest employers are in healthcare, education, and then retail, tourism. These, unfortunately, aren't the best paying jobs anymore. We need careers that actually pay decent wages so people can be sustainable here, so they don't have to move away to find these career opportunities and growth. That's the only way our population starts going up. If our population starts going up, guess what? We don't have to raise taxes because we have more people to pull tax revenue in from, and we can get these other projects done. So it really starts with that, bringing new people here, but in order to do that, we need to have the jobs to support them.
Okay. And Councilor Sapienza, what is any goal that you would like to achieve if you were reelected?
Well, I think some of the things to add on to what Ms. Shade said on the ordinances, we have several ordinances that are very badly outdated. We need to clean up our ordinances. We do need to look at our charter as well. I also think that we also need to look at being able to enforce some of the existing ordinances that we have on the books. We have a lot of housing that is in very poor condition, some of it unsafe to the point where it needs to be taken down and removed. And I think that we need to make sure that we have the resources to be able to enforce some of the things that we have on the books already. And I think that's one of the areas, one of the goals that we have to work on as a council. And again, meet the challenges as they come up from time to time. You know, I can't predict what's going to happen 6 months, a year down the road, but we need to be prepared for these contingencies as they occur and to be able to come up with possible solutions in a fairly short amount of time to be able to take care of things. You know, if we have a major water break or if we lose one of our water sources, things like that, we need to be able to respond quickly and be able to get things back in order. Also, I think that in addition to bringing people here, we need to market the area. We need to market like our quality of life. We have an excellent quality of life here. We have clean air, we have green space, we have a beautiful town, one of the most scenic areas in Western Massachusetts, and we need to market that, whether it be through television, radio, social media. You know, there's multiple avenues, YouTube commercials, things like that. We need to market this area and say, hey, come to North Adams, come take a look at us. And if people come and look at us, they may say, hey, you know, that's not a bad area to be in. I might want to bring a company in, or I might want to bring my operations here. I'm in the city now and the taxes are killing me, but North Adams has a reasonable tax rate. We have good schools, we have an excellent quality of life. Let's, you know, marketing the area is very important. I think that's one of the things that we need to really look at over the next couple of years.
Yeah, I think sometimes the people who live here don't realize what it's like outside of here and think that our taxes are extraordinarily high, and then, you know, go a couple hours away and yes, that they're no comparison. So,
They don't want to hear that, you know, they look at their tax bill, it goes up $20, that, you know, they freak out. And, but, you know, we're paying the same bills that other communities are. You know, out of 361 communities, I believe. 351 communities. You know, we are the 11th from the bottom for average residential tax bill, 11th. And the ones that are behind us do not have sewer and water and police departments and high schools, and they don't have a tenth of the services that we're providing. So we really do, there's residents here, you know, they'll be maybe shaking their head, but for bang for the buck for their tax dollars, they get a lot more than a lot of other communities. And when residents come in and come to my store and they're showing some interest in North Adams, and they'll ask, what's the tax bill? And I'll tell them the average tax bill. And they look at me like in disbelief and shock and be like, really? How do you pay for stuff with that? Because ours is 5 times that and we can't pay for this, you know? And then I'll explain. We have a water department of 2 people. We have, you know, a police department of 19, and you know, and you throw these numbers out, and then they understand that they also have much bigger departments, and also our salaries are low, you know, and you look at other communities and the department heads are twice what ours are getting, along with all the way down from, you know, the bottom to the top. So ours, and they are there because of what the tax revenue is. What's happening, and I think Councilor Sapienza mentioned at the beginning, or maybe you did, but the expenses go up, and every year our budget increases $500,000 to $1 million without changing a thing, and that's just with increases in insurance expenses, sand, salt, asphalt, you name it, and we have to make that up. So, you know, and again, that comes down to tax revenue, growth, or grants and funding. Those are the 3 ways, unless someone wins a big lottery ticket and gives us the money.
I'm still waiting for one of those myself.
Yeah.
So I just want to make sure that Councilor Bona had a chance to say, if you have a goal, if you were reelected for 2 next 2 years, is there something you would like to get done? I know you've had a couple of things come through council.
I have, and they have, a couple haven't happened. I mean, one that I would still like to see, and this is really more in falling on the state level, is I would like to see better tax incentives for people who want to renovate homes. We have blight in the city. Gateway cities that have populations of 35,000 up get incentives that we don't get. And again, we're stuck in between. We have urban issues, but we're sort of a rural population. So I think it's a great way. You hear people out there complaining when the big mills and stuff get all this state funding. And keep in mind, they're doing a lot of work to get that. It's not just signing a paper, oh, here's
Right.
money.
Yeah.
There's a lot of strings attached to that. But one of the things I'd still like to see is there's a number of blight houses in our city, and where someone can go in, buy that house, and get some tax incentive to fix that house up, either being an owner. And this might also work. One of the things I'd like to see back is like a North Adams Community Development Corporation. We used to have it. It used to help with housing. It used to help with small businesses. And to see like first-time buyer loans and things like that where the city or the CDC works with banks.
Okay. All right, we're starting to run low on time, so I want to make sure, is there anything that any of you really wanted to talk about that we didn't touch on? I was going to touch on blight, but we're kind of running out of time here, so I don't know if
Right.
that's what you want to get into.
Well, just briefly, I think that I made a suggestion at the council meeting last week that possibly some of the ARPA funds could be used to help secure low-interest loans for single homeowners that need to repair the roof or the porches falling apart or things like that to make their homes safe. I know there's a lot of people that can't afford to fix their homes, and maybe that's a possibility.
Yeah, that's similar to what Mayor Linda Tyre did, her at-home program in Pittsfield, and it provided for low interest loans and grants
Right.
through their GE fund. Of course, they got money from GE, and they're using that to do so something like that as a set aside. Ms. Shade, is anything you want to touch on?
The one thing I kind of want to touch on a little bit, and we've had the conversation, is kind of going back to the budget problems that we have and our infrastructure. And one of the things that I want to see going forward is, as we've said, you can't always rely on grants. You can't always rely that these things are going to be there in the future. We need to be better at putting money aside every year, annually, into accounts specifically for the maintenance and upkeep of these things. I don't think we do enough money in those types of accounts for our water and sewer, for our public safety building, for our schools, for the water chutes. I think we need to start budgeting that kind of thing out better. We can't always rely that there's going to be money somewhere else. And I know that's a hard thing to talk about because now we're talking about making changes in other parts of the budget. But if we don't upkeep when we fix things, we're going to have this problem again in 20 or 30 years. If we don't maintain our school buildings, now we're depending on the state to help us with these big projects. And if they turn us down, our schools close. So we need to do better at putting money aside that only is used for those specific things. Let it grow if it doesn't get spent, but we need money aside for this, and we need to do better at it.
So enterprise accounts have been brought up a number of times over the years, putting money away like that, and it's been difficult because everything flows in, almost everything flows into the general fund. And the first thing that happens when you need to cut a budget is like, well, we won't fix this one thing, we'll wait
Yeah.
until next year. I don't know, Councilor Bona, do you want to address that, or?
It's tricky because, while I do support a enterprise fund for water and sewer, at the same time, if all of a sudden you're going to say we're going to set $200,000 a year, that's $200,000 now that
Right.
you've taken out of the budget that you needed. Because again, there's not much extra to play with in that budget. Every year we're making cuts. We have departments that are literally at the bare minimum. So while I support that idea, the general fund sort of still does do that because if we are putting money into the reserve account too. And I mean, 12 years ago, our reserve account was at zero. We do have several million in there now, but it was at zero. And it depleted fast when the state made some major cuts to funding of how communities would get. And it went down, and like I say, we had to make some changes. Prop 2.5 was suggested, it failed. So it was a difficult time. So I like the idea and the concept of yes, put this money here and here and here, but we do that, it comes out of the budget, and we have to say, and I'll say this to I'm already calling you Counselor Shade, to Ms. Shade, and I've said this before, when counselors get up there and they say, I'm not voting for a tax increase, I will question and say, then what are you willing to cut? Because if we don't increase taxes and we don't see growth, something has to be cut, and we've been cutting. A lot has been cut. So, you know, you talk to every department, and every department is going to say, we need more funding, we need more staff, every one of them. And, you know, so you got to then tell them which ones are you going to cut. And some of them we can't. Some are mandated by the state. I mean, education, there's very little room to cut there, and that's half our budget. So.
Councilor Sapienza, do you want to touch on that, or you want to? You
Well-
only got less than a minute.
On the things going on with the reserve funds, and it's always nice to have a reserve to be able to kick back and, you know, be able to take from it if we have a sudden emergency, such as like a water main break or major infrastructure failure. Enterprise funds, I think, work well with situations like the airport, maybe the fire department, police department. I think sometimes that works well, so they can remain well funded. I mean, it's important to have a good fire department. We have an excellent fire department, and they need the equipment and the tools, as well as the police department. They need the equipment and tools to be able to work, and if something comes up, they lose a cruiser or something happens to one of our fire apparatus, we need to be able to go out and say, okay, here's the money, let's get a new piece of apparatus or have the apparatus fixed. Yes.
Okay, all right. So we're running out of time. I'm going to give all of you, going to start with Ms. Shade first, since she went last. Quickly, tell people why they should vote for you.
Yeah, thank you so much again for hosting us this evening, giving us this opportunity. Again, I'm running for City Council because I believe that we all need to work together and play our part in helping our city grow. I want to help represent all of the community, especially those who don't get a seat at the table, who don't have a voice. I'm here to represent and work for the community of North Adams and serve the community of North Adams. And I look forward to earning your vote over the next month.
Okay.
Thank you.
Councilor Sapienza.
Yes, thank you, and thank you, Tammy, for hosting this tonight. I am here to serve the city. My goal is to represent those of you in the city, all the people in the city. You know, the residents and the like, newcomers and longtime residents. We are here for you, we're here to represent you, and I would sincerely hope that you give me a second chance to remain on the council in this next term, and I thank everyone for their support in advance. Thank you.
Okay. Councilor Vaughn?
Yeah, so even if you don't vote for me, there are some that, you know, look at all the candidates and vote a variety. You don't want everyone on there who thinks just one way. You want people that look at different ages, look at different demographics. Some have families, some don't. You know, some have businesses, some are in different income ranges. And because you want that council to really fit the entire community. We have a very diverse community. We should have a very diverse council. At the end, we're all making decisions that are for the whole city.
Okay. Well, thank you very much.